The tale of Paul McGrath is a fascinating one. It is a story full of triumph, tragedy, and victory over adversity. He remains a footballer beloved by many, and whilst he has struggled greatly throughout his life, it is ultimately his achievements that will define him. This is a story of the life of Paul McGrath. Paul McGrath was born in Greenford, Middlesex, the son of Betty McGrath and a Nigerian medical student. His father fled soon after Paul's conception, and Betty was terrified of her religious family finding out about her having sex outside of wedlock and participating in an interracial relationship. Betty was ultimately forced to put Paul up for adoption when she returned to Ireland. A foster family later came to Betty and said they could not control him, and so he lived with his mother for a few days before being sent to an orphanage. McGrath struggled as a child, going through many different orphanages, and often treated as an outsider due to his skin colour. However, he showed excellent sporting talent. His stocky figure and pace saw him gain attraction, and he spent time at the youth teams of Pearce Rovers and Dalkey United. Manchester United scout Billy Behan noticed McGrath at Dalkey and would send positive reports of McGrath to the Red Devils manager Ron Atkinson. McGrath's time at Dalkey would help make his career, but it also introduced him to something that would cause damage throughout his life. During a tour of Germany, McGrath and some of his fellow players snuck out. After wrapping his lips around a bottle of Southern Comfort, his life would never be the same again. McGrath, over the next few months, got worse and worse as he drank heavily and suffered a breakdown that saw him spend several months in hospital. On the other side, he would be reunited with his mother, and once he returned to the green grass of home on the football pitch, his life got back on track. He continued impressing for Dalkey and proceeded to sign for St Patrick's Athletic. He excelled in his sole season there, winning the PFAI Player of the Season award, and would soon get his big break. Paul McGrath signed for Manchester United in 1982, with Billy Behan's reports paying off. His graceful yet tough defensive style and incredible pace for a centre-back was ideal for the Red Devils. He was a shy man, but had a fearsome desire for victory on the field, which endeared him to supporters. He soon ended up solidifying his place in the team, partnering Kevin Moran in defence. He became a star at Old Trafford, but things were not well for him off the pitch. As a result of his childhood trauma, the drinking culture of football, and to cope with the pressure of the limelight, McGrath's heavy drinking continued. He was often spotted in the pub after games, with teammate and drinking buddy Norman Whiteside, and at points turn up to training and sometimes even games drunk. Ron Atkinson let these issues slide, however. For as long as the player turned up and performed on Saturday, he was happy. And also, even when drunk, McGrath was still sometimes the best player on the pitch. 1985 was a great year for McGrath, as a goal in extra time for Norman Whiteside saw Manchester United defeat Everton 1-0 in the FA Cup final, to seal the first major trophy of McGrath's career. Also in that year, he received his first international cap for the Republic of Ireland. Manchester United were on track to win the league the next season, but a lengthy injury list saw them slide down to 4th and miss out. A dismal start to their next campaign saw Ron Atkinson dismissed, and he was replaced by Alex Ferguson. Whilst Atkinson was lenient on McGrath's off-field activities, Ferguson was keen to stamp out the drinking culture embedded in football. Ferguson initially kept McGrath in the team, but his drinking didn't stop, and a series of knee injuries saw him lose his place. After rehabilitation for their injuries, McGrath and Whiteside would often shrug their shoulders and head to the pub. His relationship with Ferguson became increasingly strained, and eventually the Manchester United manager shipped McGrath off to Aston Villa in 1989. The falling out had a devastating impact on McGrath, and on one night his wife found him sobbing on a bed covered in his own blood after McGrath had attempted suicide. McGrath, however, would soon return to football, deployed in midfield by Graham Taylor for Aston Villa. He wore wristbands in his next game to cover his wounds, and after a victory over Everton, he played 35 consecutive league games, winning the Supporters' Player of the Year. He had found a new love at Villa Park and would soon be taking on the world. Under Jackie Charlton, Ireland reached the 1988 European Championships, where despite crashing out at the group stages, they defeated England, and 2 years later, they played in their first World Cup. Ireland impressed, reaching the quarter-finals, where they lost to hosts Italy. McGrath was ever present in the side, playing in all 5 of their games. McGrath continued impressing for Villa, with his incredible defending and commitment to the cause seeing him be called God by the Villa fans. and 1994 was another great year for him too. He had been reunited with Ron Atkinson after he was appointed Villa manager, and on the 27th of March 1994, Aston Villa defeated McGrath's old side Manchester United 3-1 at Wembley to win the League Cup. After the game, Alex Ferguson passed McGrath in the tunnel, put out his hand and said to him, "Well done, big man." Later that year, he would be travelling across the pond to America as Ireland were at the World Cup once again. McGrath was still ever present in the Ireland team, and in their opening game, they beat heavily fancied Italy 1-0, with McGrath blocking a shot from Roberto Baggio with his face and getting up like it was nothing. He soldiered on throughout the tournament, despite being in a lot of pain due to his continuous knee problems. And although Ireland were knocked out by the Netherlands in the round of 16, McGrath had twice impressed on the world stage, and many still hail him as Ireland's greatest ever player. McGrath would be at Aston Villa until 1996, winning another League Cup along the way. He joined Derby later that year. However, his knee issues continued to plague him, and he was stared deaf in the face once again. He developed an addiction to tranquilizers, and on one night, with the cupboards empty, he was so desperate for a drink, he consumed a pint of bleach. He soon started frantically drinking water to try and clean his body, and when he got to hospital, his organs were amazingly unharmed. He joined Sheffield United the next season, and at that campaign's conclusion, he retired from the game. His life has continued to be troubled since his retirement, with his battle with alcohol continuing. McGrath has dabbled in various activities, working as the director of football for Waterford United and even releasing an album in 2011. Paul McGrath is summarised well by his former manager Alex Ferguson, who said of the defender, "It's incredible that he could play to the level he played at, given what was going on in his life. I can understand why he is still so popular. Like George Best, people liked flawed geniuses because they see something of themselves. They're ordinary people who became great." Paul McGrath's life may be a troubled one, but his story should serve as an inspiration. Being given up for adoption at only 4 weeks old and being treated as an outsider throughout his youth, he fought against the odds, impressing and endearing himself to people wherever he went. Despite being an alcoholic and having fragile knees, he performed incredible things on the pitch, with fans of all he played for remembering him fondly. The tale of his rise to the top is incredible, and whilst he has faced many issues off the pitch, it should not overshadow the incredible things he achieved on it.